Hey guys, welcome back. BGCKR here. We're back after a week that we missed. No great reason, things got a little busy, but this is season 5, episode 10 of our Q&C&A&T videos.
I know it was a while ago, but I think it was the glitch that we were working on that took up a bunch of time.
Yeah.
For the credits, the multiple multiplayer season rewards.
That's true. Okay, and there we go. And
midterms.
Midterms, yeah. Okay, so maybe actually some pretty good reasons.
Yeah.
This might be a good time to bring up that we view this as a hobby. Also, sorry, we try to have accountability. I think we're normally pretty good at posting a video every week.
Because we've been doing it for a while and we've got new people, should we every once in a while say the Q&C&A&T stands for questions and comments and answers and talking?
Yeah.
And we pull questions and comments from the videos when people talk to us.
And questions also from the videos, yeah. So our first question of the week comes from Drake Pendragon, and they say, what do you think about the idea of them rotating out old online characters and making them available in a type of pack? This would give the opportunity to have more of the new online characters show up more.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. I mean, we don't really know exactly what they're doing, right? We're making a lot of inferences, but I think the model for Injustice is encouraging online play. Clearly, that's an important part of their business plan.
Yeah.
And the main motivation to get us to play is the multiplayer rewards, right?
For sure.
And originally it made sense to encourage play for the sake of play because the mobile game was an ad for the console game, so it didn't matter, right? Like you just play it as an ad to get more people to play the console game, and that's why they had all those unlocks, right? But crazily enough, the mobile game has outlived the console game. It feels like that to me anyways. And it makes a lot more sense now that Warner Brothers wants to make money off the mobile game. So, you know, our insight is based on playing Injustice for years, filming Injustice videos, and going to a bunch of the forums that discuss Injustice and doing this kind of video, like originally Q&A and then Q&A&T and now Q&C&A&T for years.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the long way of saying it. The only way I think they would make that kind of a pack that would give you multiplayer rewards, and they've done it before, where it was a random chance, but for money.
Yeah.
Right? Their pricing schedule is so out of whack. I mean, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, they charge so much for everything, and the stuff that they're actually charging for isn't actually necessarily the right stuff in terms of value, right? Like, they don't have any way of buying augmentations, for example.
See, that would be the perfect money pack. Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they could either be selling stuff that would really be of value to players, or by repricing some of the stuff that they've got. I mean, they have sales every once in a while, but even at 50% off, the price on credits is probably, it doesn't feel like it's worth it in terms of, you know, it's worth it in terms of how much time it saves you as if you were working, but it's not for, you know, actually playing a game. To bypass actually having to play is kind of weird.
Yeah, this is a good shout out actually to a different mobile game I'm playing right now again, called Soda Dungeon, which when it first came out, literally the only in-app purchase was you could buy the ability to remove ads, and you would actually earn the ability to remove ads. It was an in-game currency purchase to remove ads at some point in the game, and that was when it first came out. And since then they've had updates, and they've updated it to have new in-app purchases, but the in-app purchases aren't even particularly necessary, right? Like, they provide some value, but for like they're really kind of well priced, and they're also totally not necessary. Where
like Pokemon used to have, you could buy furniture for your hideout.
Yeah, but that was not real money.
I know, but it was. But that's kind of idea where you'd actually spend some of your hard-won earnings on stuff that didn't actually have an impact on how you played the game.
Yeah, so Soda Dungeon, that's also a recommendation, I guess, of a good, it's like an idle-ish game. It's an idle game with some strategy components. It's a fun play if you want it. It's on, I think, PC and mobile, like all mobile, so that's a pretty decent recommend if you're looking for something.
All right, sounds cool.
There we go. Not sponsored by Soda Dungeon, but it's a good game. Our next question, I think that was everything, right?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Our next question comes from Adrian Cuyubamba Diaz, and they say, guys, I have a question. My Dawn of Justice Wonder Woman is Elite 10, and my Dawn of Justice Batman and Dawn of Justice Superman have been already broken through 3 times each, but I don't have copies to promote them to Elite 10. Do you know if they'll be in a future challenge? If not, do you know any way to get these extra copies either legitimately or not, and then in brackets, without paying?
Yeah. And they've got a recommendation, right? By the way, there's a PC game I would recommend you to play. It's called Spec Ops: The Line. Try not to get spoiled because the best thing of this game is its story.
Oh, sorry.
And that's true
yeah,
with a
no,
lot
I
of
missed
games.
that part. Yeah. No, but Spec Ops: The Line, I haven't. Honestly, I bounced off it a little bit. I played some of it, and it really is a narrative focused game because it's a cover shooter, but it's not necessarily about. Like it's the story is really kind of integral to it.
All right, this fight's going to be a bit of pain. We don't get our crit damage. It's a Red Sun Green Lantern team, so this might drag on a bit. I like the phrase that you just used, bounced off. And I think there's a long history of that cool being too cool to enjoy something and just to really dislike something. And the phrase bounce off it really implies that, it's not that it was bad. It's just that there was something not for you and you didn't get into it the same way. I don't know. I just like that. I like the idea how it's changed away from where you actually have to attack something just because you didn't like it.
Yeah. So you cut out there. I got the gist of what you're saying. Yeah. Spec Ops: The Line was, I could tell it was a good game. And I could see why so many people liked it when I was playing through it. It just wasn't for me.
Uh-oh. All right, Wonder Woman's down, so that means this fight is really going to drag on. That was a bit of a mistake. All right, so maybe let's unpack the question from Adrian.
Yeah.
So part of it is, all right, so maybe talk about the glitch that doesn't want to go away, even though it hasn't been working technically since 2.14. And it's one of the most popular glitches as far as video views.
Yeah.
And I think... Did we just talk about it recently about how we struggled about whether to keep it in the active list or not?
Yeah, we did in our most recent recap, I think, actually.
Yeah, because every other glitch, it's basically, there's no particular conditions, right? And you open the game, you do the steps, you get your ill-gotten gains, and then it works until it doesn't. And then maybe you have to find different steps or something, but that's really it. The promotion is the glitch to promote characters when it's not unlocked to your store. It's the one glitch that's always required very specific conditions that haven't existed since 2.14.
Yeah, so I guess the real short answer to your question is, yeah, we do know of a way to get extra copies without paying, but we don't know how to make that actually usable.
Yeah, because the conditions just haven't been there for, I guess, how long has it been? Has it been a year?
Oh, it's been a while. It was update 2 point something, right? I forget. 2.14, right. I think, was the last update that it was testable in.
Yeah.
As working.
And so maybe take a look at the other aspect of the question, right? Dawn of Justice Batman has never been a challenge. He's always been a pack exclusive, and it was a Dawn of Justice Gold pack exclusive. And I'm guessing Adrian probably knows because Adrian's got, he's got to have it at Elite 7, right, to be able to unlock it and have it ready for to go to Elite 10.
Yeah.
But that means Batman's never going to be a challenge. And Dawn of Justice Superman was a challenge, but the schedule for repeats is totally ineffable and unknowable. It seems just so arbitrary. It cannot be effed. I never understood. I mean, I know the expression and I've used it. I just never knew what the root of that was. It was just a weird kind. And so maybe all right. So this leads me to an interesting part, right? It's the economy of hacking.
Yeah.
So you're talking about the way that, or Adrian was talking about the way about getting extra copies either legitimately or not, right? So this is the ultimate illegitimate way. We talked about teaching, but cheating teaching. But okay, so here's the thing, and without paying is sort of the key, right? Because there's people who hack for free, but I never understood the motivation on both sides, right? So the person who's doing the hacking, are they doing it for practice? Because if they're doing it for practice, I don't know that I want them to practice on my account.
Yeah.
And if they're helping, how much are they really helping when we see lots of examples where, somebody who comes from a background of not grinding, not only do they not appreciate the time that they saved, but they have no idea how to use what they have, right? All the questions about what I do with this team, where to use this gear,
Ooh.
And
yeah,
there's no way to... Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, the thing that gets me is when people go, somebody hacked my account and now it's banned. Or I think the best version that we got, which is somebody just signed into my account and added stuff, totally removing culpability. They're like, yeah, no, I didn't tell them to. They just came in and they got my account banned. And I don't know. And I think that speaks to the fact that it's possible to not know what you're doing. Just because you can hack doesn't mean you actually know the consequences of hacking. And sometimes the consequences isn't just what you add or don't add or what you're able to do, and there's kind of more subtle stuff that I'm not sure. I think we would actually do not bad understanding the intricacies of the actual in-game, what you should and shouldn't do, but like I'm not even sure that I would be able to understand every little thing that happens when you're adding or removing content, you know?
And this is it, right? Like, it's not like we have some problem with hackers except very specific kind of cases. It's that
I mean, we
glitches.
We have somebody who hacks stuff for us when we want to like show stuff off early.
Yeah, but hackers, there should be some place where they can get reviews, like on Amazon, right? And then you can see if they're like the third party sellers. So you can have like, because otherwise, this is the part I don't get, is how do you pick the person that you trust with your login credentials, so that if they screw up your account and you get it suspended, what do you do? Or they screw up something that you don't want them to screw up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's exactly like, I mean, again, we can use yourself as an example as like a purveyor of, right? It's not looking, or no, not purveyor. Sorry. What is it? When shopper? What's the term for a consumer?
Okay. Yeah.
So as a consumer, it's
we are the market. We are the target market.
We're a target market, but looking for like a new account, and basically being given login information with stuff in it is different from having somebody modify your account. And also, we have a lot of experience with one person who we, at this point, I would say trust to not go in and screw something up. And even at that point, I mean, we're never actually like using stuff in fully like for like
our main
play,
account, right? It's never a main account.
It's looking for offline play, and that's like, I'm sure it would be safe to take online in some contexts. Like I don't even know, right? Like it's not
right.
That's just a risk that in our main account that I don't know how comfortable I am with ever letting somebody else root around and change stuff.
Yeah. So, and here's the thing, let's assume they do it for free, which, if I mean, I've just made the argument really that the ones that are doing it for free, there's that expression, you get what you pay for. But I'd be more fearful of somebody who's offering to do it for nothing. But how much is it supposed to cost? I mean, all right, so it's, if you're willing to take on the risk of learning it yourself and making the trial and error mistakes, I mean, you can do it for free, right?
Yeah.
But then you have to compare the value of what you're getting versus the cost it would have taken to get it otherwise. Like, because there's a huge disparity there, right?
Oh yeah, there's a bunch of different ways to like label the cost, because there's a cost that it would take to like do it yourself, and for that, like it's just time, and that depends on what glitches are available and what you're actually getting, and like how easy or quick it would be for you to do it. And then there's the cost in the store, which is super inflated, where you're talking about if you're getting however many credits, right? The cost in the store is way more than you would probably consider the value of the cost of credits, even if you're earning them, right?
Right.
And then there's the actual like work involved that it would take to do the hacking itself, and those are the three different ways that you could actually look at the cost. And I don't even really know how exactly you would break it down. Like personally, which metric would you use?
I guess it depends on where I'm coming from, right? I guess if I was the one making the money off it, I'd want to negotiate from the value of what you're getting. And if I was paying for it, it's like, you know what it's like? It's like buying a new car. So the seller wants to sell it to you at, like, tell you, oh, I'm giving you this much of a discount off the list price.
Yeah.
Whereas you're in the best position to bargain if you go in knowing what the dealer price is and saying, well, I'll give you this much more than the dealer. That's what your time is worth to sell it to me. That should be good enough for your commission, right?
Yeah.
I don't know that there's a great answer.
Yeah, where it's like, it's because it's not like there's not like one standard price for anything either. So it means it's kind of like kind of the Wild West, right? Or this kind of thing. Because it's like, it's not like it's something you're supposed to be like buying or selling, right?
Right.
In the strictest sense of the word supposed to, right?
Because it is a service.
Yeah.
And I think
it's a product and a service. Oh, sorry. I just really spat on that one. I don't know if that picked up in the audio. But that aggressive. That was. I hope. How did that sound on your side?
I wouldn't have known if you hadn't told me. I wouldn't have realized you were so aggressively conversating.
Oh yeah, no, there was a plosive.
Okay. All right. So maybe can I end with an anecdote?
Sure.
I remember. So there's a blog I read. Mark Evanier. He does comic books. He's the writer for a bunch of cartoons, but I think he's probably best known for writing Gru the Wanderer, that's drawn by Sergio Aragonés.
Yeah.
He the guy who he's an artist for Mad Magazine. He did a bunch of the stuff on the sides. He did a bunch of strips.
Yeah.
So he tells a story how that there's somebody who was getting a sketch from Sergio, and I could be screwing this totally up. I don't even remember exactly the details, but he was saying about how somebody was getting a sketch from Sergio, and Sergio was charging some, I don't know even what amount, and the guy was thinking, oh, that's too much. And Sergio says, well, yeah, but you're not paying for the 15 minutes it took to draw a sketch. You're paying for the 40 years of expertise and training that gets him to the point where he can draw it in 20 minutes.
I've heard that quote, but I've heard it attributed to Leonardo da Vinci, I think.
I don't think he ever did sketches at comic.
No, not at Comic
Artist Alley.
Or who? It was somebody. I've heard that attributed to some famous Renaissance artist.
Okay, I could be totally getting wrong. I just when I think of that quote, I think of Mark Evanier. You're gonna start searching.
I took to draw it. Time learn to draw. Here. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Okay, I'm gonna start the next question. It's by Harry Pierre, and they say, why don't you just hack it? Or sorry, why don't just hack it?
Okay, so we've had parts of the discussion before, and we sort of started on it, and I think this fits really nicely with the theme, right? We even have a comment on our YouTube About page still, I think, but maybe it's worth pulling together everything here. And the best place to start would be maybe with some definitions so we know what we're talking about, right, as a group, whoever's sitting in on this conversation. There's hacking, which is manipulation of a game by changing the code. You typically use a separate program. And there's one subset of hacking, which is being a script
I'm sorry,
kiddie.
I found it. It wasn't Da Vinci. I was very much wrong. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Oh, wait, who is it?
This is a quote from Brian Braun's blog post, and the story goes that Picasso was sitting in a Paris cafe when an admirer approached and asked if he would do a quick sketch on a paper napkin. Picasso politely agreed, swiftly executed the work, and handed back the napkin, but not before asking for a rather significant amount of money. The admirer was shocked. "How can you ask for so much? It took you a minute to draw this." "No," Picasso replied. "It took me 40 years.
Oh, all right. So you know what? My memory is not the greatest, anyways. But it's a good story, right?
So that's Picasso and pricing work.
Well, I guess Picasso is way more modern, for sure.
Yeah, Picasso. So it wasn't Da Vinci.
And it was not Sergio Aragonés.
And I found a link somewhere else where it's a different story. So it's entirely possible that it's apocryphal. In fact, the version that I said is almost definitely one of many, equal but different versions. This other story that I'm skimming through now, so he did a portrait of somebody in a single stroke. So without lifting his pen, and charged $5,000 for it. So, that one seems a little less believable than the napkin one.
Right.
But so there we go. Sorry.
Oh, you know what it's like? It's like the Douglas Adams story about being in the train and thinking that somebody else was sneaking his
that's such
cookies.
a good story. Oh, okay. We almost have to give context. You should look it up. It's like there's this Douglas Adams biscuit story. And
did we tell it already?
We haven't told it. I told you.
Okay.
And we did it in what used to be our recording studio, and so that's probably why you have that association. But you should look it up, and it's an apocryphal story that happened in Britain, but Douglas Adams had a spin on it right at the end, and the way that he told the story, basically, I don't want to spoil it. Maybe we'll put it in the description.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah. And I'll look it up while you read this question.
Okay. So what was I saying? I was talking about script kiddie, right? So one subset of hacking is being script kiddie, used basically a polished program that does a very specific thing, and typically it lets you buy things in a game that normally costs real money without spending any real money, right? So there's a distinction to be made, I think, because cheating is not the same as hacking. And clearly we cheat, right? Not only do we use glitches, we publicize them and explain how they work. you know what? Actually, we should probably define our use of the term glitch. And all right, so Wikipedia says a glitch is a short-lived fault in a system, such as a transient fault that corrects itself, making it difficult to troubleshoot. The term is particularly common in computing and electronics industries, in circuit bending, as well as among what's circuit bending, as well as among players of video games. More generally, all types of systems, including human organizations and nature, experience glitches. A glitch, which is slight and often temporary, differs from a more serious software bug, which is a genuine functionality breaking problem. Alex Peichel, writing for Arcade Review, said bug is often cast as the weightier and more blameworthy pejorative, while glitch suggests something more mysterious and unknowable, inflicted by surprise inputs or stuff outside the realm of code. So that's what we're talking about when we say glitch. And to me, the difference between what we do and hacking is it's a pretty significant one. I mean, it's a difference between both process and outcome, right? Like there's differences there in terms of what you're able to get, but also what you're actually doing. Oh, all right. So I know you're watching Good Place, but I want to ask if any of our viewers are watching The Good Place too.
Yeah, such a good show.
Yeah, if we're because this is hilarious because sometimes you don't expect to, right? It's pretty funny. But you learn a lot of stuff. If we're looking at the outcome to tell us if something is right or wrong, right? That's consequentialism.
Yeah.
And if we're looking at the process to tell us, that's deontology. Mm-hmm. So it's deontological ethics. And all right, so which do you want to look at first, deontology or consequentialism?
Let's do consequentialism first because I think it's easy to follow.
And I think that's what most people look at, right, when they're talking about this kind of stuff in justification, right? Because, all right, so in this, it looks the same because we ended up with more credits, whether we hack or we cheat. Mm-hmm. We get more gears, we get more cards, or more promotions than we should have had, right? Mm-hmm. Is it wrong to have them? I don't think so, right? Mm-hmm. Using glitches, it's all stuff that's possible to have in the game. We just get more of it. And it's not like we've been able to put things in the game with glitches that don't belong there. I guess maybe that's not entirely true because sometimes there's the early season rewards glitch, right? So you get it, but you get it a little bit earlier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. So with few exceptions, we don't get stuff that we couldn't have already gotten some amount of otherwise.
Right. And so looking at the consequence again, does it make other people's experience in injustice crappier? Mm-hmm. And I think hacking can, right? When you duplicate copies of gears and put them on different team members or more than one on the same person.
Yeah. Hacking breakthrough areas.
Yeah. All right, so remember when gear scores that were way higher, like orders of magnitude higher than what the limit was?
Yeah.
And I'm going to say if Matchmaker were worse, then we potentially could be making others experience worse by making them lose when they shouldn't, facing teams that shouldn't be possible yet, that are maybe a little bit harder to beat. But Matchmaker is actually pretty good right now. So if you're going to be facing somebody that's that like a really high level of something, where you've gotten them farther, you're probably not facing them unless you've cheated yourself a little bit.
Yeah, and the thing that could unbalance matchmaking is the gears, and at this point, everybody that high up has all max gears, everything, and we haven't actually, like, the glitching hasn't really helped us with the gears at this point.
Yeah, it's a pretty mature game now.
Yeah.
I mean, we are talking like 5 years, right? Mm-hmm. All right, so what about... All right, so I'm going to screw this up. Remember we were talking about how sometimes you see words, but you don't actually talk to people about them? Is it pronounced deontology?
I have no clue.
So is it wrong to exploit glitches inherently because of what you're doing? Mm-hmm. And there's lots of people, if you look at the forums, there's lots of people who say yes, right? And there's a couple that are otherwise really helpful on the forums that are almost fanatical about it, right? Mm-hmm. Where cheating is just absolutely wrong because it's not what the developers intended.
Yeah, kind of like whatever the opposite of death of the author is.
What?
It's an interpretation based thing where it's either the author is dead, death of the author. It's a literary term. I don't remember exactly, but basically what it breaks down to is you have to treat any text like there is no meaning in it separate from the text, including what the author intended. So if the author meant it to mean one thing, but you read it another way and it is totally a viable read, then if the author comes out and says the way that you're doing it is wrong, the author is misunderstanding what the work means once it like becomes separate from them.
Oh, this one's going to be a slow fight too because of all the power dampening. But all right, so that's interesting too because sometimes when you do something, you may not have intended it and it could be subconscious and it's still there in the work.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where when anybody turns out to be really problematic, um, when, afterwards, especially when it's something like YouTube or it's really personal, right, where it feels like part of the work is their personality, there's always that question of, can you still enjoy this piece of work knowing that you don't like the person behind it and that you can't respect them? And so that's one of those things where the kind of death of the author comes into play. And if you like video games and you want to explore that kind of subject, a cool game to play is The Beginner's Guide. It's a really interesting, it's not really a game so much as it is an interactive fiction piece, or I want to say an interactive narrative piece.
Was that the game that wasn't finished? You showed that to me once, right?
I showed that it wasn't the game that wasn't finished. The Beginner's Guide is the game where you're playing through this game, all these games that this guy's friend made, and he is telling you about them as you play through them.
Okay.
It's
all right.
It's one of the games where, even when it came out, I don't even know if this is a spoiler exactly, but people weren't sure if it was even a piece of fiction or not when it came out, and I think there might still be some debate about that. I believe it is, but I'm not even sure if that might even be a controversial opinion.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. We've gotten really muddled and like...
Yeah, that's okay. You know what? I think it's all related. We're talking about deontology, right?
Yeah, deontology.
Okay, so and we were talking... Oh, so this is how we got sidetracked. We were talking about that this wasn't what the developers intended, right? Mm-hmm. But see, here, even though it's not what they intended, this is the game as it actually exists. Because these glitches don't require any special software, a modified APK. This is how the game is now.
Yeah.
And with a small bit of knowledge, you can play the game in a way that offers an advantage.
Yeah, and I mean, there's precedent for this, right? Look at the speedrunning community, right? A lot of the way that speedrunning works is that you use stuff that is in the game that the developers did not intend for you to be able to take advantage of, and you use it to break the game into really weird, unintended ways, but it still counts.
Right. Yeah, so that's perfect. The death of the author is a perfect way to think about that.
I'm not sure if that's a term. I'm going to Google it again. I'm doing a lot of Googling today.
All right, and here's the funny, almost ironic thing, right? It's a little bit funny, but the fact that we publicize these glitches instead of holding on to them for just ourselves, that's actually deontologically, is that the word? Deontologically more ethical and right, because Warner Brothers now has the opportunity to see what we're doing and have more information that allows them to patch the glitches. I mean, on the flip side, that more people are taking advantage of it potentially, right? Mm-hmm. But it evens the playing field actually because of that.
Yeah, more people taking advantage of it is actually not necessarily a disadvantage.
It's ethically good.
Yeah,
I think because it means that people all have the opportunity to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so everybody who's engaging with the game on that level is not at a disadvantage.
Right. It's knowledge. It's nothing artificial. I mean, to me, some people would make the comparison. Well, because the argument superficially has similarities to, well, if you just let every athlete use steroids, then it would be an even playing field. But it's not, because we're not injecting anything into the game. Mm-hmm. This is the game, and what we're doing is maybe a better training method, actually. And all right, so here's the thing. I actually had to look at the terms of service, and I couldn't find anything there about glitches that would run afoul of Warner Brothers games' terms of service, except for the fact that they can just cut you off anytime they feel like it, which is in every terms of service, right?
Yeah.
But here's the thing. So along those lines, hacking, especially when you're using ScriptKitty to get stuff for free, there's actually a part, Section 6, under paid services, I'm going to read this. Certain aspects of the service may require payments. If you use those aspects of the service, you agree to the applicable pricing and payment terms.
This is such a funny way of addressing what you framed as an ethical question. This is like, there's an SMBC comic about those logical paradoxes. Like, does a barber who shaves all people who do not shave themselves shave himself? And this is a funny answer to that, because you're like, is this an ethical conundrum? Let's look at the Warner Brothers terms of service. And in the SMBC comic, the person solves all those problems by they're like, no, it's really easy. So their answer to that one is they call up the barber and say, hey, do you shave yourself? Yep, great. And so you know what I mean? Like, you frame this as like a large ethical thing, and you're like, well, and also there's a rule right here, and it says, don't do this one, but doesn't say anything about ours, so I guess we're fine.
Alright, so see, and it's funny because I mean, normally ethics and laws are separate, right? But I think there's a little bit of overlap in this case when we're looking at deontology. That actually matters because if there's a law against it, then you clearly know it's wrong.
Yeah. Whereas,
although you know what, some laws are not ethical.
That's true, and some people would argue that a law that is unethical is, like, in some cases it's actually your imperative to break rules.
Right. I mean,
if you're doing something ethical, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, historically, apartheid in South Africa.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. There's definitely some examples in which fighting institution, including laws and regulations, is totally valid and maybe even also the right choice. I think it's just it's probably also a slippery slope to say that you get to be the one to decide when you do and don't follow them. But I think it's also very obvious in some cases when it makes sense to not follow them.
Right, and unless you're going to make the argument that the law is actually, or the rule is actually wrong, that has to be the starting point, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So here's the thing. All right, so we were talking about process and outcome, right?
Yeah.
And if we look at it, not just from an ethical point of view about what the dangers are, I think you need to consider the danger of hacking, right? Because if you do it yourself, you need to have enough expertise not to screw things up. If you get someone else to do it, and we talked about this earlier, you're not only violating the terms of service, you're putting your account at risk by giving someone else, sometimes a stranger, your login credentials. And I'll admit, I mean, the danger of glitches is definitely there too, and we've seen people having problems with their accounts with most glitches that we've posted. But I think, I don't know what your position is. I think we do a pretty decent job of not only acknowledging and defining the dangers that can happen when we post glitches, I think we do a better job than most of updating things as the situation evolves. When we find out more from other people's experiences, how they might do things in a way that's subtly different from what we're doing to figure out why they're getting different results than we are. Mm-hmm. And I think the biggest danger of not appreciating what you get and not enjoying the game is, I think it's there with both glitching and hacking, but maybe it's a little bit more with hacking.
And I think it depends, because the problem is there's so many different types of glitches. Like the first type of glitch that we ever were introduced to, the challenge reset glitch, right?
Oh, that was such a good one. It still is.
Yeah, because it couldn't really reduce. What it did was it gave you the ability, it gave you the option to play more in a space that gave you basically the most amount of rewards per hour spent playing.
Right.
So all it was a way to kind of access that place where you got cool new content a lot more efficiently.
Right, but it really, you had to play still.
Yeah, it didn't let you skip out on any kind of playing, right? You had to earn each character copy at the same, and it took the same amount of work that it did to take you to earn the first copy of it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe this is where we wrap it up, because I think ultimately there's a significant difference between hacking, which is one subset of cheating, and exploiting glitches, which is another subset of cheating. And there's enough differences, I think, that it's easy for me at least to justify doing the cheats, but not doing the hacks.
For sure.
Yeah.
So there we go.
That was a great question or comment. I can't remember whether there was a question.
Let's scroll back up. The comment was from Harry Pierre, and they said, "Why don't Justice hack it?" So.
All right, thank you.
Led us to some places, though. Yeah, our next question comes from Thomas Glitter, and they say, sorry, totally different topic, but if you downgrade Injustice, can you use old and patched glitches? I found a site that still saves your data and doesn't require a root.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
The problem with downgrading stuff is, like, when you revert to an earlier version, they literally don't have the framework to save all your data.
Yeah. So you can lose content. So sometimes it's gears that didn't exist then, characters that didn't exist then. You can reduce breakthrough cards. Yeah, it's just... And I guess the other thing is, if you're using an APK, if you didn't save it yourself, you don't know if it's legit and whether something was introduced to it that shouldn't be there.
Ooh, yeah. Just lots of risks.
Yeah, so my vote is no.
Yeah, and I think we don't have too much more time. We're going to answer probably this next set of questions, and we'll see what we have after this.
Sure.
We were saving a question from, I guess, 2 weeks ago now from our last episode, and I think we're also going to have to push it again.
Yeah, I don't know. We've got these fights are lasting a little bit longer. We had a couple of drawn out ones. It's the power dampening teams when we face them that affect the strategy that we've got with. Basically, this is a power gen team, and we're relying completely on specials and having power.
Yeah, but we only have about like 8 minutes less, so
Okay.
we'll see. Okay, so our next group of comments. These are comments. One comes from Shim, and they say, glad to see some non-clickbaity YouTubers making Injustice 1 videos that actually know what they're talking about. Thanks, Shim. And our next question comes from Ronald, Lutty, and they say, thanks, but you both stumble and bumble when talking. This could be a 5-minute video, so you need to plan what you're trying to say. Thanks, Ronald.
Somebody watched. Somebody watched enough to get frustrated, so that counts for something, right?
And this was the glitch for the Phantom Zone.
And the other one, I think, was with one of our recaps, right?
Mm-hmm. So, I think the moral to take away from this, I mean, constructive criticism is fine. We're fine with it.
Here's the thing. Here's the issue I have with Ronald. And I don't mind when people don't like what we do. I mean, what's the worst that'll happen? They don't watch us. They give us a dislike. Not a big deal,
Yeah.
right? I mean, ultimately, it's not going to be the difference between whether I put food on the table this week or not.
Yeah.
But what's annoying is, every time there's a glitch, there are always comments from people who either didn't watch the video and made a mistake that we clearly told them not to do in the video, or they came from another video where they just learned how to do glitch and something screwed up and they come back and... Yeah. And I think, the description actually has all the steps. If you want to read it, it'll take you not even a minute to read through all of it. But I think the only added value we give to it is, maybe not the only, but I think the biggest added value we give to it is when we talk about what we understand of what's happening. So there's certain things that you should not do to avoid real problems.
Yeah.
And that takes time. I don't know that it's easy to explain stuff. All right, so I keep on attributing things, but I'm sure I'm going to get this wrong again.
It's okay.
But there's a writer, Nick Mamatas. He's written science fiction and crime fiction. He's editor at Viz Comics. They do manga, right?
Yeah.
And he's got this 3-9 rule that if you're talking to somebody who's relatively with it and smart, you just need to explain something to them 3 times. And they'll get it. That's how many times it takes them to learn. But if somebody who's not very smart, so a little bit slow, you have to repeat it 9 times. And I think we have to tailor some of it a little bit to the people who maybe don't pick it up so quickly, because, you could watch the video, miss the point, and end up doing something really bad with your account that you've been playing for hours and hours, trying to get this one little advantage.
Yeah, and I think that just by the nature of glitches, that's like we talked about earlier with the risks, right? Our videos are less about making it easy for somebody to as quickly as possible do a glitch, and more about making sure that whenever possible nobody loses out on anything.
Yeah, this is the, you know what? Again, we're jumping around a bit, but it totally makes me think of training. So that's why the trainer on a professional team, their job is not to get everybody strong and fast. Their job is to make sure people don't get injured. And that's not obvious, right? From their trainer, they're supposed to train people.
Yeah.
They're not training to get better. They're training to keep them healthy.
Yeah, and so if a video is too long and too confusing and people decide not to do it, or if they don't want to listen to all the risks and they decide against doing it, that to me is better than people not understanding what they're doing and losing progress.
Right, it's a feature, not
data.
A bug.
Yeah, and I mean, you might be able to argue that there would be some way for us to refine it, which we could accomplish both, but I think in the meantime, better to be safe than sorry.
Yeah, and you could refine it as much as you want. Somebody else could do it too, right? But I mean, the short answer is basically then don't watch our videos, get it from somebody else. But I think at this point, there's probably not a lot of people doing Injustice the same way.
That's true.
There's lots of people doing Injustice too, right? But I mean,
one thing, it's funny. This is a little late in the video. I was talking with my friend, plays Injustice, the Injustice historian that I mentioned. We were talking about the medals, Alex, and I was talking about how consistently the wiki is still updated. Like, the wiki is updated constantly with really high quality information. Like,
Yes.
when the update came out and I was looking for information on the medal characters, I looked at the wiki to like brush up to make sure that I was like knew everything that we needed to talk about.
Yeah.
So I think like a huge shout out to the people who are still working in the community. Whoever's on the wiki and doing that, y'all are doing a good job.
Yeah, true.
So we've reached the end of our video, and like I thought, ran out of time for the last question. I guess we'll have to push it. Now is when we plug our Patreon, but more importantly, when we thank our patrons. So patreon.com/BDCR, send us a couple bucks. We'd really appreciate it. But instead of telling you we'd appreciate it, we're going to show you we'd appreciate it by showing the appreciation for all the people who have already decided to support us. So a huge thank you to Eddy G, Edwin Felix, Console Peasant, and Console Peasant. We missed last video, so I'm thanking them all twice. Who are supporting us.
Did we miss them?
No, but
right,
last Q&A,
because we didn't do it. Right.
Yeah, so
Okay.
we missed a week. We're supposed to thank you in these videos. You get your thanks twice. Who are supporting us at the highest last word tier. We have iProphet, and who could forget iProphet, who are supporting us at the Your Message Here tier. We got Shawn Farrell, and Daniel Simonson, and last but not least, Daniel Simonson, who are supporting us on the credited level, and then Laszlo Georgiades and Chris Wolf. This is you get one bonus thanks, but not a repeat, for supporting us on the gratitude tier. We're showing you our gratitude. You have not paid for us to say your name, but we appreciate you enough that we're saying it anyways.
Yeah, listen, it still amazes me that people are still supporting us for as long as they have, and it's rather humbling.
Yeah, so there we go. I don't think the saying the name twice thing was as funny as I thought it was going to be, but
I was quite amused and surprised. I did not see that coming, but
that okay.
I thought,
that's
what?
Good. You know what? They could let us know if they liked it or not, and if you didn't, I'm sincerely sorry, and I will not do it again. And if you did, you're welcome, I guess.
Yeah, you know what? Thank you everybody for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Komoda.